World mythology spans disciplines as a means to explain scientific theory and thought, as well as philosophical theory and thought. Though rarely accurate, these accounts can give us an understanding of the scientific thought of the time. This is just one instance of insights one can obtain through myth. We will examine myths and their extrapolated explanations as to their import or other important factors we may otherwise miss, cultural norms, impact of customs on myth, and interpersonal expectations, among others. We will focus on some key groupings of myths with brief introductions to theorists of note along the way. Stories can be told to explain why things happen. They can elucidate social expectations. They can point out common character deficiencies as a means to outline expected behaviors, and they can be a source of entertainment. In the case of myth, most stories considered mythologically or socially or otherwise historically entrenched in a long-standing tradition. If it's newer, it's often considered an urban legend. Also, myth has been used as a term significant of falsehood in modernity. In this class, we will focus on the richness of myth by enjoying primary excerpts from the original works, but also exploring what others have had to say about it. The abstract modes of thought surrounding evaluation of myth can be both a subject of enjoyment and great disdain. It's rare that every person will agree with all assertions systematically differentiated by focus, so it can become even more necessary to support our ideas by including the methodology by which you arrive at those conclusions you choose to assert. What are some ways you do that now? To begin, there are two ways of telling a story: paratactic and syntactic. The simplest example of paratactic storytelling is the speech of young children. They represent ideas one after the other without showing the temporal or logical connections between them. Another helpful way to evaluate myth and explain how is to identify insights obtained from myth. The following are insights you can obtain from myth: historical, anthropological, metaphysical, cosmological, ideological, sociological, and psychological. Also, when using psychological evaluation techniques, Jung, Freud, and Rank come up more frequently than most. You will also be introduced to Joseph Campbell, Claude Lévi-Strauss, Victor Turner, and Vladimir Propp. Words of note: rationalize, to make something more logical or reasonable, usually by adding a made-up reason after the fact. On urban legend. As you may have already known, myths are stories about gods and heroes performing fantastic and amazing adventures rather than about alligators terrorizing nameless people in the streets of New York. While they are not myths in the strict sense, they can help us see the nature of the oral tales that are still transmitted in our own time. Even though mythological stories represent truth for the societies that tell them, this does not mean that we as readers should take them as accurate representations of the values of the societies that they come from. Once again, welcome to World Mythology.